Next, let's open up our selective studies book to page 15. Now this is the most challenging of all the pieces that you're going to play for our region. But don't worry, this piece can be broken down into multiple sections, and make sure to start slow, and then you can build it up from there. So first, let's look at the key signature. You'll notice that there are two flats, B flat and E flat, and we are in the key of B flat major here. And next, let's look at the time signature. We are in 6/8, so there are going to be 6/8 notes per measure. And we'll also check the tempo here. It shows that vivace, I could be saying that wrong just a little bit, but it also means 60 beats per minute, or dotted quarter note equals 60. Now this tempo is actually really fast, and probably a better final tempo might be around 55, and make sure to really nail that. But even that might be a little fast too. It'd be better to go into an audition and play it slower, more accurately, than it'd be to play it faster and get more wrong. And I've personally auditioned on this piece a couple times, and that was my biggest mistake, was I took it a little too fast when I went in, especially with my nerves going. I probably should have slowed it down just a little bit right when I went in. And so I ended up getting one chair below probably where I was because of this piece, just taking it a little too fast. So it'd be better, again, just to play it slowly and get more right than it is to play it faster and get more wrong, for sure. Next, we'll look at our dynamics here. Overall, the dynamics are a lot more simpler than some of the other pieces. There's not as many changes. And so really make sure that you're putting a lot of good air support. It says forte at the beginning. So make sure that you're putting lots of air while you're playing. So I'll encourage you, when you first play this, look through it, play it measure by measure, and then line by line, just making sure that you have each measure down as you play and perfect each measure. And I also encourage you to play with a metronome and look through any tricky parts that could be challenging for your counting. So I'm going to show you the music here that I have, and I want you to note, go ahead and write all these things in your music where I have breath marks, and also where I've written an R or an L or F. So there's going to be a few things I want to point out. And so if you go to the second line, and you'll see where what I've written in, it's I say out, and then I say in. And so it is often necessary on the oboe to actually have moments where you breathe out and then you breathe in, because it almost feels like we are holding our breath at times. And that's because there's not a whole lot of air that can go through this little tiny opening on the tip of our reed. And so it almost feels like we're holding our breath. That's why I've written out there to remind me that I need to breathe out. Now, some of those breath marks will actually change, and you might even get rid of a few of them depending on the speed that you're taking. Now, the faster that you go, typically the less of those breaths that you're going to have to take. So even those ones that say out and in on line 2, you can probably wait until measure 7, or also the line 3, measure 1. You can just breathe right there whenever you get it up to a faster tempo. So I'll show you what that is. Looks like. So this is where I'm talking about, right here. So you can even cut this note just slightly short and then keep playing right here. Even if you need to take some time, and that's going to be something important, especially about this piece. Going through it straight, it's very taxing and it's very difficult. And so you're going to feel like you're going to be constantly out of breath, because there's no rests in this piece. In fact, there's only a couple at all. So anywhere there's a breath mark, it's going to be very critical that you make sure that you might need take just slightly a bit more time, maybe slightly slower out of tempo from your metronome, just making sure that you have enough air, because that's going to be something else that's going to be very challenging with this piece. You're going to continue to play each section, and then you're going to get to a point that you're out of breath, and then you're focusing more on your breathing and the fact that you're out of breath and actually on the notes in the music. So make sure that you're following all of those breath marks very closely and practicing them in too. I want to go back and talk about what the R, L, and F mean. And I realized I wrote R. Actually, go ahead and change anything that says R to an F, because it's actually meaning fork, like this. So again, if your instrument has the left F, anywhere you see where I've written L or F above each other, go ahead and just use the left F. Anywhere there's a fork, go ahead and use that. Marking in this will also help make sure that you don't play the standard F here, because if you do in this piece where I have an F, it's gonna cause a blip like this, trying to get to the standard F. But if you're using fork F, like from here, instead of standard, it's gonna really help make some of these passages easier, for sure. I would focus in on just dividing this up into different sections, and here closer towards the end, you'll see I've divided this up into different sections. So right here is one section, and here's another section. So this is kind of, there's this repeated C throughout here, and practice this very slowly and speed it up. And whenever you get these two measures down at a slow tempo, bump up the tempo just a little by little until you get a little faster. And next there's this D arpeggiation right here that goes all the way up. Practice that and get that down, and then just keep going. Here's another thirds. It goes down a minor second, up a third. That'll be something good to practice on its own. And then there's another arpeggiation, and then you have chromatic scale right here. And so you can also write CHRO or chromatic. If you practice your chromatic scale, you would already have this down just right off the bat. And note right here at the very end, we're ending on an E flat. And so I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges to this piece, is making sure that you just break it up into sections, practice them individually, and then combine the sections together. You could even break it up between a couple notes. One of the more tricky spots is going to be on line 4 for counting. Right here, so line 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that first measure. So right here is going to be pretty tricky, and so what I actually recommend is taking a breath on, like, getting rid of this note and just breathing right here instead. And I'm going to play that for you here in just a second. So I'm going to start on measure 9, and then right when I get here, I'm going to take a breath right here, kind of get rid of this tie, and that's going to help me count this and kind of keep me in tempo. And so I'll recommend that you do this too. There's just not many places in this to breathe. So here's measure 9. Make sure I'm not going to go too fast. 1, 2, 3. You can see where I've taken a breath right there to kind of help me keep in tempo. So I'll do measure 9 again, and if you want to play with me at the same time, we can do that too. This is also line 3, measure 3. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right there. And let's do that just one more time. So here we go. Right at measure 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm playing that much slower. Let's see what I was doing. If I was to put this right at 60 and play that same passage, you'll see how much faster it is. So go from the slower speed to the faster. Make sure you're just doing it incrementally, and have your metronome on, play with the metronome on, and then go from probably about 30 and then go up to 35. After you perfect that, go up to about 40. Just do small increments until you can work up your speed. Now, if you will look with me on line 5, measure 3. It starts on an F. This section is an F arpeggio, and it's probably the most difficult section of this whole entire thing because there's a lot of chances for blips in here. So make sure to practice it very slowly and even work between 2 notes and then add a 3rd note and keep going. So I'm going to play this section for you, and then I'm going to show you a fingering at the very end. the fingering is the high F in this piece, and there's an alternate fingering to this that will make it a little easier to play. So here's again, line 5, measure 3. The way to practice this would be to go between 3 notes and then keep adding a note. So start with, I'm just going to go between F and A here. I'm going to add a 3rd note. And then I'm going to go F, A, C, A, F. Now I'm going to do 5 notes. And out there's a little blip, so work on that. And then keep adding. I'm going to go down to low C now. And so I'm starting on standard F, and then everything else I'm using fork F. So now I'm going to add another note. So you kind of get the gist here. Just keep adding a single note. And whenever you have an issue between 2 notes, like it's blipping, where it's blipping kind of like, that's a little exaggerated because you can hear it really well, but just practice between 2 notes like that. All right, so let's work on this high F. This is going to be line 6, the very first measure, or the very top of that arpeggiation. Normal F has a lot of fingers down. This alternate is going to help be able to play this. I do want to say that this high F alternate fingering is something to only be used in certain circumstances. So most of the time you are going to want to play the normal F that you have in your fingering chart, but this one will help you with this arpeggiation. Here we go. So this is the fingering. So it's going to be register key, half hold, 2, and then your side G sharp key, like that there. So again, your thumb, half hold, 2, and then the side, just like that. If you need to write that down or put that into your fingering chart, you can do that too. But again, don't replace the standard F. This is just for this arpeggiation. I'm going to show you what that sounds like here, and I'm going to end and I'll show you where it's at. So I'm going to play going from the end of this arpeggiation into the high F, so the last 3 notes. So it's going to be high A, C, and then the F. So I would just practice those 3 notes really slowly. Here we go. And then continue to work backwards from there, going up to the high F. So now I'm going to add in the F below. Here we go. So you can see that going from C to F is a lot simpler than going from C to this F, where you have to put all these fingerings down, and which often causes blips. So again, just keep working on that fingering, and you'll get it. All right, well, I think that's it for this piece. And so thank you very much, and good luck. Thank you.